The body leans slightly forward as the day progresses, an almost imperceptible gesture. The shoulders carry something that has no name. The gaze wanders over things without truly lingering. The cup remains warm in the hands. The steam rises, touches the face, then disappears. There's a moment there, brief, but it slips away before it's noticed. Inside, something keeps moving, always. A flow that doesn't quiet down, even when everything seems still. Thoughts drift by like distant noises. They aren't loud, they aren't urgent, just constant. A background sound that never completely falls silent. The day unfolds almost on its own. Familiar steps, the same sequence of actions. The body knows the way. The mind runs a few steps ahead, trying to reach something that hasn't yet arrived. There's a feeling of always being a little behind schedule. Shortness of breath, then a longer one, then almost forgotten. There is a weariness that doesn't come from physical exertion. It settles in slowly, like dust accumulating in corners. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't scream. It just weighs you down. A discrete weight that accompanies every movement, every decision, every pause that never truly happens. At some point, the attempt arises to organize what is happening inside, to give it form, to give it a name, to create order where everything seems diffuse. The mind seeks explanations with the same insistence with which it seeks distractions. A silent search for something that will provide relief, even if only for a moment. Nothing lasts very long, not even relief, not even the discomfort. There are moments when the external silence widens. The house is empty. The room is dimly lit. The sounds of the city are distant. And yet, inside, something keeps turning. An uninvited internal dialogue that insists on staying. It comments, evaluates, corrects, compares. Sometimes it protects. Sometimes it pressures. The inner space shrinks without anyone noticing, as if each thought occupies more space than it should, as if there isn't enough room to simply be. Attention fragments. A piece here, another there. Almost nothing whole in the present moment. There's a curious feeling of being present and absent at the same time. The body is here. The mind, not always. It revisits old scenes, anticipates future possibilities, rehearses answers that may never be used. Everything happens too fast to be seen clearly. A slight tightness in the chest comes and goes. Then he returns. Then he disguises himself. There's no big drama. There's no breakdown. Just a continuous, polite, almost acceptable discomfort. Something you learn to live with. Something that comes to be called normal. Still, in rare moments, when time seems to slow down on its own, a crack appears. A microscopic interval between one thought and another. A space where nothing needs to be resolved. Where no answer is required. Where perception expands effortlessly. This space doesn't advertise itself. He just shows up. And it disappears as soon as the mind tries to touch it. Something begins to become visible there. Not as a clear idea, but as a feeling. A silent recognition. As if there had been an internal movement happening for a long time, repeated countless times, so integrated into the routine that it had ceased to be perceived. Nothing is ever fully revealed. Not yet. Just the impression that something is being done continuously, almost automatically, at the most intimate level of experience. A subtle internal gesture. A formless habit. A movement that seems too small to matter but too constant to be ignored. As if this movement were always pointing outward, even when everything that truly happens is within. There is a subtle tendency to adjust, fix, rearrange the experience even before fully feeling it. An almost automatic impulse to do something with what arises, instead of simply remaining. At this point, something changes in quality, not dramatically, not like a clear turning point. It's more like an internal slowdown, an imperceptible loosening. The effort to control begins to tire of itself, and in this weariness, a gap appears. Presence doesn't arrive as an answer. It insinuates itself as space, a space that was already there but was constantly occupied. Thoughts pass, sensations arise, emotions form, and, for the first time, there's no rush to push them away. There's no urgency to understand, just a being with. Silence takes on texture. It is not empty. It is alive. Attention rests in the present moment without needing to fixate. The body feels before the mind interprets. A warmth in the chest, a gentle tightness, a knot that reveals itself and is not immediately undone. Nothing needs to be corrected. Nothing needs to improve. There is an intimate recognition that fighting what you feel requires more energy than feeling it, that resisting creates friction, that observing curiously expands. Emotions cease to be obstacles and become movements. Waves that rise reach a peak and, when they encounter no opposition, recede on their own. The mind tries to interfere. It always tries, with questions, analyses, narratives, but something learns not to follow it immediately. A gap emerges between the impulse and the reaction. Small, just enough. In this interval, the experience reveals itself in a more raw way, more honest, less filtered. There is a sense of intimacy with oneself that doesn't require explanation, as if, for the first time in a long time, the inner space wasn't being invaded by constant judgments. Attention anchors itself gently in the present, not as discipline, as curiosity. What is really here now? A distant sound, breath touching the body from within, an emotion asking permission to exist. And when that permission is granted, something curious happens. Not immediately, not like a trick, but gradually the intensity changes. Not because it was controlled, but because it was seen, felt, acknowledged. There is peace in that. Not a euphoric peace, a simple peace, silent. A peace that does not depend on the absence of emotions, but on the absence of conflict with them. Perhaps this is the most difficult point to understand. That suffering doesn't come from what arises, but from the relationship created with what arises, that the internal war consumes more than any emotion could consume on its own. When this perception begins to form, even vaguely, something inside relaxes, as if the body understands before the mind, as if conscious presence were less of an effort and more of a return. If, while listening to this, any sensation stirs within you, pay attention. Don't do anything with it now. Just notice. Then, if it makes sense, write in the comments a word that represents what appeared. It could be presence, it could be resistance, it could be silence, or just now. Sometimes naming is a way of witnessing. And if any of this resonated more deeply, perhaps it's worth sharing a short phrase, something like "I felt that," or "that made sense." Not to explain, just to make your presence felt. Because there is something more being revealed in this newly opened space. Something that has not yet taken shape in words. Something that approaches slowly, demanding attention,